Hi there, Phil Simborg for the USBGF. This is a little bit of a demonstration on some insights on how to use extreme gammon. My qualifications are that I've done it a lot. However, I have helped Xavier from the beginning with a lot of the ideas on the features of extreme gammon, and I beta test all of his new programs, and have helped him market it. So I'm very much involved with extreme gammon. I have a video that explains the use in much greater depth, and if you're interested you can email me at pjsimborg@gmail.com. Today I'm going to show you how to look at a match and some insights on how to look at a match after it's been played. If you can either import a match from one of the many game sites by going import and then go to the site that it was played on. Gammon site is where a lot of the USBGF matches are played, and these other sites are pretty common sites. If it's a site you play on that isn't here, quite possibly it would still work the same as the FIBS site, because it's pretty much going to be in that file format if it's one of the outside sites that's not listed here. But once you import the match, or even if you played the match yourself, or you saved a match, you can bring it up, and there's some fun ways and interesting things you can do to look at it to look at it a little better. Let me just pull up a match that I had imported and saved not too long ago at the New York Open. Two of the best players in the world clashed. Mochi, who is ranked number 2 in the world, and Matt Cohn-Geyer, ranked number 5 in the world as of the last Giants voting, which is about to change soon. In any event, they're going to clearly still be considered two of the best players in the world. They're both very high on my list. When they play each other, I was really interested in seeing the match and seeing how they played and what plays they missed, because they don't miss many. So I saved the match. I downloaded it from Stick's website, BG Online, where it was posted, and I think the match was transcribed. I'm not sure. Mishipu by Michelle Steinberg transcribed the match and went through play-by-play and put it into Extreme Gammon, so I wouldn't have to do that. So the first thing I do when I load the match is I can see Mochi is red and Matt Cohn-Geyer is blue, and I can look and see their final rating. Well, let's make sure that I've got this right. Look at options, and this is show entire session. So overall, Matt outplayed Mochi this particular time. It could easily go either way, and Matt played at a stunning 2.46 error rate, which is pretty amazing, and there's nothing to be embarrassed about 3.99, although that's really not a very low PR for Mochi. Mochi is often playing around 2 and much less, so really this might have been this is what you would call a bad game for Mochi, and the rest of us, anybody else in the world, would be thrilled to play at 3.99. So the other thing you can do is you can see each game. You can go to options, show current game, and this first game Mochi played perfectly, and Matt made one small error. So again, I'm going to go back to looking at the entire session. Now, if I want to go through the match and just look at the errors, I can just go forward on this little tab here, and it'll take me to the next error. But what if I want to just look at my own errors? Let's say this is a match of mine, and let's say that I was red. I can unclick the blue dot here, and now just the red dot is showing, and when I click here, it'll take me to the red's next error that he made. So the first error that Mochi made, oh, this is terrible. How can he be considered such a good player when he took this cube? This is horrible. He took this cube, and according to Extreme Gammon, it's a .001 error. He was supposed to pass this cube by .001. It still shows up as an error. Now, here's something else that you might do. This is so close, I wouldn't trust Plus. This was done by XGR Plus. You would really probably have to do a rollout to be sure, but at least let's take it to a higher level. If I hit plus plus, I'm going to get a better reading on whether or not this really was a take or pass. And now it turns out that it really was an error, that it wasn't just a very, very tiny infinitesimal pass. According to plus plus, which is pretty accurate, he really should have passed this. Now, there's other things involved. This is the first very early in the game, and it's 10 away, 11 away, and this is his first error. It's in the second game, and maybe, oh, I know why he took this. He thought Matt was going to misplay this position and screw it up, so that way he'd have a really, really easy take. I'm kidding, of course. He knows that Matt's not going to screw this up, and but At any rate, let's go on to the next error. Hit the button, and next error is a pretty big size checker play error. This shows the play he made with the check mark. It shows that he played, as the arrow showed, he came in and hit. And what should he have done? He should have come in and made the 10 point. That he should have been playing, he'd be better off making the point than hitting. I'm not going to get into a long discussion on any of these plays or a critique of the plays, but again, I'm just showing you how to use XG here. Again, anytime there's an error that I'm looking at, before I draw any conclusions, I take it to a higher court. I put it into XG++ by highlighting both plays. I hold down the control button, highlighted both plays by clicking on both plays, then hit the ++ button, and let's see, it turns out to be, again, a bigger error than it was originally thought to be, and it's a .087 error. And again, I can continue with looking at just Mochi's errors. If I want to look at just Matt Kongeyer's errors, I can click on the blue and unclick the red, and now we'll go to Matt's errors. Here's a 5% error that Matt made. He should have hit and come in with the front checker. Instead, he hit and came in with the back checker. Obviously, the reason is one way leaves more shots, more return shots than the other way. Or duplicates also his coming in numbers. He has to come in with 2s and 5s, so there's some duplication there. But it's a 5% error. Again, I go to highlight them both, go to ++. Now there's something else that you can see. We notice that Matt outplayed Mochi, and it shows that Matt also had worse luck. That the luck factor was plus 1.5 for Mochi. Well, what is luck factor? What Extreme Gammon does is it takes every roll and it assumes that the average roll will not be lucky or unlucky, and that anything you roll above average, if you roll a roll that would increase your odds of winning by 1%, then you've gained 1% in luck. And if it's a roll that's would reduce your odds of winning by 1%, you've lost 1% in luck, and it totals it up for the entire match. And for this entire match, Mochi was luckier and gained about 1.5%. That's not a lot. I've seen luck factors go as high as 5 and 6 and higher, which would be very, very high to gain that much over any kind of a long match. In a one game match, you could easily have incredibly high luck factor. You roll 3 double sixes at the end, and your luck factor goes through the movies. So overall, you can see the luck factor as well. You can see another summary here. Mochi had 2 cube errors, where errors in giving the cube, where he either didn't give the cube when he should or gave the cube when he shouldn't, one of which was a blunder. A blunder is defined at anything higher than .08, or it could be even a little bit less than .08 if it's at a critical point in the game. And Mochi had 6 checker play errors, but 2 of those were blunders. That's why his error rate was higher in this match than Matt. Matt had the same number of checker errors, but none of his were blunders, and Matt didn't have any cube errors. Neither of them had a take error. Every time they were doubled, they'd made the right decision on whether to take or pass in the entire match. By the way, this was a let's see, an 11-point match, because it starts at 11 away, 11 away. That's another thing you can do. I like to keep it in the away score. Right click here, and you can show absolute score or away score. I like away score because that's what really matters to me. Another thing, oh, by the way, let's go to the final match, final game, and we can see that we go down to the very end. There was an 8 cube, or was there a 4 cube? Let's see, where was the last cube? Yeah, there was a redouble to 8 here. The cube went to 8, and Mochi doubled Matt to 8, and Matt took the cube, and who won the game? Blue resigned the game, and Red won. So the luck factor obviously made a difference here, because Mochi played worse and won the match with because of greater luck. You can say because of greater luck, or some people argue the luck factor isn't real accurate. They think that if you get a little bit lucky on the last game on an 8 cube, maybe they should count a little bit more than when you get lucky on a 1 cube. But it does take that into account, maybe not as much as we should take into account. The other thing that can be argued is maybe the error rates aren't that accurate. playing a human being, maybe you're right to take a cube that maybe should be a drop according to the computer if you were not playing a human being. Or maybe you're right to hold off on the double when you're playing Mochi, and maybe you should double Phil Simborg when you have that position, but you should hold off against Mochi. So these playing human beings should you do change your game. I know Mochi does change his game. He and I have talked about it, and he will often play an opening 4-1 and slot against a inferior player, knowing he can outplay him, and that will cost you some in your PR. He'll do things like that intentionally, and he's probably right to do so. As a matter of fact, if Mochi is doing it, you can pretty much be sure it's right, because this guy does not make very many mistakes. Okay, I hope this helped you. Again, if you need a video that gives you all, there's a lot of more features of Extreme Gammon, a lot more things we can look at, and a lot more ways you can look at this analysis in greater depth. But I hope this gives you an overview of why it's important to have Extreme Gammon if you don't have it, why you should be downloading and looking at your matches and looking at your mistakes and examining them. And I'll just show you one more feature. Let's say here's a 6-2 error that Mochi made. That was a pretty big error. This is a 16% mistake to make this play. He should have made this point instead. Blue's on the bar. It's a great time for him to come out and start moving forward with his back checkers, and he missed it. I'm sure with more examination he'd get it right, but keep in mind these matches are long and tedious, and this is late in the day probably, or into the tournament, into the Masters they're playing, and he might have just missed it. But let's say I really wanted to save this and examine it and play it out and play with this position and move the checkers around. Hit Control C, and now I've saved the position, and hit Control V, and now I've pasted this exact position in by itself. And now I can play around with it. I can see, well, how would I play a 6-3 here? How would I play the 6-2 if this point was made, or if this checker wasn't on the bar? If this checker wasn't on the bar, I'm not sure I'm going to make that play at all. Let's put this checker in here. It totally changes the play. Instead of 21-13, which was right when this checker is on the bar, it becomes the fourth best play and wrong by 4%. So this helps you get an understanding for the play, and you can play around with these things and isolate the position, or just save this position for further study so that you can become more aware of what you did wrong. Or maybe if you're not quite sure what you did wrong, you save the position and you contact a mentor or somebody really good, or you take a lesson from me and call me up and say, hey Phil, let's talk about this play that I made and why it's wrong and how I can get better. That's what I'm here for. Thank you for watching, and I hope this video is helpful to you. This video is available to anybody on Facebook who visits the USBGF Facebook page. You will notice that there are many videos that are exclusive to watch for USBGF members that don't just have me in the video. I have Stick, Sachs, Bob Coca, Mary Hickey, Matt Cohn-Geyer, John O'Hagan, Perry Gartner. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody, and I apologize if I have. People who are real experts in this game that help analyze positions with me and discuss them in detail, and I've done about 120 of them now, and you can go back and see them all. It's an incredible library of positions in cube, and the discussions by me and the others is almost more than you would find in a lot of books on insights into this game. Well worth the price of membership to the USBGF, even if you didn't have about 20 other great benefits for joining and reasons to join. So visit the website if you're not a member, join, and those of you who are members, thanks for your support. I'll see you all soon in San Antonio and online. Thank you. Bye-bye.